executive orders, federal agency rules, and federal laws are issued that chip away at sovereignty granted to the states by the 10th Amendment of the United States Constitution. And over the last 4 years alone, federal directives passed by the Biden administration imposed a historic $1.7 trillion of new costs onto Americans. And Attorney General Paxton has filed over 100 lawsuits challenging this federal overreach. Examples of these unconstitutional federal directives include the Biden administration issuing burdensome regulations promoting electric vehicles through fuel economy standards, targeting gas stoves and ovens, and attempting to force medical providers to perform abortions. Under current law, only the Texas Attorney General has authority to challenge the constitutionality of these federal directives through the judicial system. Senate Bill 707 seeks to provide another way for the state to challenge federal overreach. The bill grants the legislature the authority to challenge the constitutionality of a federal directive and to prohibit state employees and officers from enforcing or assisting in enforcing any mandate in the legislature that it deems unconstitutional. While I don't anticipate the Trump administration issuing federal directives that overstep our state sovereignty, the last 4 years of the Biden administration have proved how harmful regulatory overreach can be to the security and economy of our state. The state of Utah has also done something similar and passed similar legislation that allows the legislature to approve a resolution prohibiting the enforcement of unconstitutional federal directives. And the Utah legislature actually used the authority to challenge a Biden executive order that would have jeopardized Title IX. With that, I yield for questions and reserve those for the author as well.
Thank you, Senator Middleton. Senator, any questions for Senator Middleton on behalf of the author? Very well. We will open testimony. And the chair calls Russell Withers, testifying for the bill. And we will be hearing public testimony after Mr. Withers. And if anyone wishes to testify on for or against the bill, please check in with us and let us know. We do have a couple we're looking forward to hearing from. Mr. Withers, welcome. Introduce yourself when you get situated there and give us your testimony.
Good morning, Chairman Hughes and members of the committee. My name is Russell Withers. I serve as General Counsel and Director of Policy at the Texas Conservative Coalition Research Institute. In my brief time, I'd just like to say a few words conceptually about why SB 707 is important. Justice Scalia used to point out that our freedoms are not secured by the Bill of Rights. He'd point out that every tin-pot dictator has a Bill of Rights, which he casually ignores. What the framers debated was that ensuring our freedom is the structure of our government. Of course, the federal government power is spread over the three branches, but it's also the concept of federalism that spreads power between the states and the federal government. James Madison explained in Federalist 45 that the powers delegated to the federal government by the states would be few and defined, while the powers of the states would be numerous and indefinite. So it's up to the states to enforce that balance. And all states do this. Texas does it very well. Even the states that we may not agree with politically do it. It's all very important. What Senate Bill 707 speaks to is the manner in which Texas pushes back against things we don't like that the federal government are doing. There's this misconception that it's solely the judiciary's role to enforce the Constitution, and it's the executive branch's role to take actions that bring cases before the judiciary. But every elected or appointed officer in Texas swears an oath to preserve, protect, and defend the laws and the Constitution of Texas and the United States. So SB 707 is a vehicle through which the legislature can assert that responsibility. It also elevates that responsibility beyond partisan politics by requiring a 2/3 majority, which is a pretty high threshold to reach without a strong consensus. So TCCRI supports SB 707. I urge you to as well. Thank you.
Thanks for your testimony. If there's any questions for Mr. Withers. It is comical when you read, sadly comical when you read what the founders wrote about what they expected to be the relative power of the federal government and the state government. It's we got a long way to go, but we're moving that way, hopefully. Senators, any questions? Thank you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
We'll open public testimony on Senate Bill 707, and the chair calls Dr. Brian Register. To register, if you're here, we have you shown to testify on the bill, and the chair calls Tom Glass. I saw Mr. Glass. There he is. And while Mr. Glass is getting situated, I'll ask if anyone else present wishes to testify on, for, or against the bill. You'll have one more opportunity, but we're getting close. So, Mr. Glass, welcome. You're well known to this committee, but introduce yourself and give us your testimony.
Yes. Tom Glass, I lead a group called Texas Constitutional Enforcement, and we are testifying today on the bill, not in favor or opposed. The main reason we're testifying on is because we love the approach, the ideas behind Senator King in terms of Texas has the right to declare its opinion of the constitutionality of what's going on with the federal government. The founders did not intend our Supreme Court to be our supreme ruler. And we, the people of Texas, through our representatives, have the power and the duty to express our desires about or opinions about the constitutionality of what the federal government does. In fact, Jefferson said that allowing the one branch of the federal government to define the limits of the power of the federal government is crazy. The one thing the main reason I'm opposed or I have a question about this bill is because it requires 2/3 of both chambers to be able to push back on the feds. I'm always looking for tools to push back on the feds. But I want the most effective tool possible. And the other thing is about this approach is if this legislature wants to pass a bill expressing its opinions of the constitutionality of the federal government, it has the power to do so. We don't need a statute to tell the body to do that. I mean, it's nice to define it and get it in our heads that we need to do it. And in fact, I'm working on another bill with Senator Hall called the Texas Sovereignty Act, SB 80, which is going to do some of the same things. But I don't think we should make a super high hurdle for ourselves if we're pushing back on the feds. 2/3 is too much. Simple majority can do it through a bill. Why not do simple majority for this process as well? Those are my main concerns about the bill. And if those are addressed, I think we would be in favor of it.
Thanks for your testimony, Mr. Glass. Senators, any questions for the witness? And so your testimony is always clear, as it was today. So you like the concept of the bill, some of the details of how it would, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you'd like to work on some of the details of how it's affected?
Mainly majority instead of 2/3.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Is there, and we're still looking for Dr. Brian Register. I want to make sure he has the opportunity. He is registered against the bill, and the record will show that, but I want to see if he wants to testify. Anyone else present wishing to testify on, for, or against Senate Bill 707? Seeing and hearing none, public testimony is closed, and the bill's left pending at this time. The chair lays out Senate Bill 888 by Senator Colhorst, recognizes our dear colleague, Senator Betancourt, to explain the measure.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members. This bill makes it clear that the Attorney General has the authority to defend a district or county attorney in federal court if the cause of action relates to the enforcement of a state statute and the county attorney or district attorney requests assistance in the defense. This came to Senator Colhorst from Burleson County. There's quite a bit of litigation that's out there on the subject. And the current law gives authority to Texas Attorney General to defend a district attorney, but does not give explicit authority to defend a district attorney for the enforcement of a state statute. In addition, the current law is silent on the ability of the Attorney General to defend a county attorney in any manner. Obviously, Senator Cole, of course, worked with the Office of Attorney General on this. So with that, be happy to answer any questions.
Senators, any questions about Senate Bill 888 for Senator Betancourt? We'll open public testimony, and the chair will call again Tom Glass, who thankfully didn't go too far. Mr. Glass, come on down. Senators, we also have a resource witness from the Attorney General's office. Does anybody have questions at this point for the resource witness? We're sure glad to have them here. May not need them. Okay. Mr. Glass, introduce yourself again and go ahead.
Tom Glass, Texas Constitutional Enforcement, and we are in favor of this bill. You know, back in the troubled days of the Biden administration, we had conflicts with the feds telling Texas law enforcement that they could not protect Texans. And that's not a very good thing. And I think that's the main genesis of where this bill came from, was because we don't, especially on border counties, in smaller counties, if the feds come in and do some sort of legal action against our prosecutors, it can bust the budget, and it puts a chilling effect on local prosecutors protecting Texans when the feds don't want them to do so. So I think this is a fantastic idea. The only thing I'd say is this ought to be a start because peace officers also need this protection as well if we ever get into this situation again. Now, you can say, well, that danger is past. Why do we need to worry about it? And my deal is, I've been talking about Nehemiah a lot lately. And I said, you know, the federal government now is back in pretty good shape, in pretty good hands. And so they're not likely to assault Texas near as much as they used to. But you never know what might come in the future. And what Nehemiah knew when he was building the walls of Jerusalem is that in the lull between attacks from your enemies, you take action, sustained action to get ready for the next assault. And that's what this bill is all about. I will also say that the other thing I've been an advocate of Texans doing is to use the Texas Official Oppression Act, which makes it a crime for public servants to violate the rights of Texans. And I think that ought to be used on federal agents. And of course, any prosecutor who does that is going to run into the same kinds of resistance from the feds. And that's another good reason for the passage of this bill.
Thank you for your testimony. Senator Betancourt, do you have questions?
No, just Tom, thanks for your comments. I think also the fact that there's simply no parameters at all relating to county attorneys is a common sense, that there should be a ability for the AG to be able to defend them. So thanks for your testimony as always.
You betcha. Thank you.
What is that? Wow, how cool, how nice. Wow, I didn't know my phone would do that. That's really cool. Let's see if I can.
Kind of hard to pull the plug on an object that doesn't have a plug.
I'm glad I don't have any embarrassing text messages that are being right now. That's good. Wow, okay. That's probably a way to turn this thing off. Wow.
Here, let your county
I
clerk.
did, okay. Slide to power off. That works every time. Let's do it.
Okay, Vice
All
Chair,
right.
that's good, not bad, boom, all right.
Volume button, just wasn't doing a thing. These phones do such cool things. We don't even know about it till the most inopportune times. Wow.
When they're not as cool.
Yeah, when they're not as cool.
Al 2000, 1984.
Right.
Well said. Well said.
Well said. And
Well said. And members, any other questions for Senator Betancourt on behalf of the author? Anyone else present wishing to testify on, for, or against Senate Bill 888? Seeing and hearing none, public testimony is closed. Bill's left pending at this time.
I'd be happy to do any bill that you have that moves committee hearings from Monday or elector from Monday to Tuesday. That's right.
Senators, and for the benefit of those here, we have a number of witnesses to testify on 2 more bills. In a few minutes, we are going to have to stand in recess so that the our excellent Senate team can reset this room so the Senate can convene. And so we will be coming back. And so for the benefit of those who have traveled here long or short distances, thank you. We want to hear from you, and everyone will have an opportunity to testify. What we will do, because we have a few minutes, is do the layout for Senate Bill 18. So I'll pass the gavel to the Vice Chair. I'll lay out Senate Bill 18, and then we'll see if there are remarks from members, and at that time will probably be time to recess until the Senate is out of session. So I'll pass the gavel to Vice Chair Paxton and for Senate Bill 18.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair. The chair lays out Senate Bill 18 and recognizes the bill's author, Chairman Hughes, to explain the bill.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Senate Bill 18 deals with Drag Queen Story Hour. It seems like there's no question, over the last few years, more and more legislation along these lines has come before the body. And we used to get questions from folks, why are you bringing bills like this? Why do you want to talk about this stuff? Well, we don't want to talk about this stuff, but we have to respond to protect children when parents come to us and we see what's happening. And so that's really what this is about. And so over the last several years, explosive growth in a program called Drag Queen Story Hour. And they've been hosted at various city municipal libraries across the state, including Dallas, Houston, Austin. And if you go to the founding organization's website, they're usually geared to children ages 3 to 11. Children ages 3 to 11, hosted by drag queens who read children's books. And to quote the founders, the program strives to, quote, capture the imagination and play of gender fluidity of childhood and gives kids glamorous, positive, and unabashedly queer role models. And that's the end of the quote. And so, again, children 3 to 11. Some libraries in the Houston Public Library system have hosted these story hours until they were alerted by the public that one of the participants was a registered sex offender. After confirming that the library had been inviting and hosting a registered sex offender, the library admitted they had not done background checks on their participants. Senate Bill 18 is very simple and very surgical. It says if a municipal library hosts one of these events, they won't get any public funding. We'll cut off all public funds from cities and from the state. That to be covered by this bill, the library must host an event in which a person presenting as the opposite sex reads to a minor, and their being dressed as the opposite sex is a primary component of the entertainment. Now, many members of the committee and maybe folks watching will recall that last session, the legislature passed Senate Bill 12, came through this committee. That committee dealt with this broader topic of sexual performances in front of children. That bill passed both houses in a bipartisan measure, and it is on appeal in a federal court today. So that issue is being addressed. This is narrower, and at the risk of stating the obvious, the library is supposed to be a safe place where children can learn, where the parents don't have to worry about what they're being exposed to. And so that's what this bill's about, and I will yield for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members, do you have any questions for Senator Hughes? Senator Betancourt, you are recognized.
Mr. Chairman, Madam Chairman, thank you. And Mr. Chairman, I want to thank you for bringing the bill. This is a very common sense approach. You know, can't speak for all the joint authors, but I think I can reflect their feeling that this is an excellent bill, and this is an activity that needs to, cease and desist at our public libraries.
Thank you, Senator. And this bill received a bipartisan vote last session in the Senate, came through this committee. The issues are important. And we have a number of witnesses for and against the bill that we'll be hearing from after we come back. And everybody gets to testify. Everybody gets a fair hearing. We're going to listen to the witnesses like we always do. That's what the bill's about. And if there are no more questions, So, sir, Vice Chair, I couldn't see your light for your nameplate. Not your fault. Please.
So thank you, Mr. Chairman, for bringing forth this bill. And we have talked about this issue in our last session. And of course, I guess drag queen doesn't have a legal definition in statute. And so the language in this bill doesn't use those specific words, but that is the purpose, as I understand your language in the bill. Is that correct?
That's exactly right.
Okay. Well, thank you. And members, if there are not any other questions, I guess we will hold there until we come back, and we will do our public
Thank you
testimony.
so much. Okay, so the bill's,
Isn't that after, is that after?
well, we'll have to do it, and then we'll have to bring it back up.
Okay, so we will leave the bill pending. Thank you.
Thank you, member. Oh, thank you.
This is the best part.
It is. Thank you. And so with that, the committee will stand in recess until 15 minutes after recess or adjournment of the Senate. Good morning.